I did not fit in, but I made the choice then to better myself, to learn from what I had seen, and to never go back.
Today's guest is my friend, Ari Reynolds. Ari is a photographer that loves capturing moments in time that people will remember forever. She talks about loving seeing a picture she's taken on someone's wall in their house. We don't just talk about photography, we talk about the why behind her life in photography and how growing up, she didn't have a lot of memories that she wanted to capture on film or on a camera. She grew up in foster care and was shuffled from place to place and went through a lot of life of abuse. But she didn't settle and she didn't say, oh my, poor me. She smiles and she spreads just positive energy everywhere she goes. And she is a friend and a mentor and a helper to others. And she shares a lot of great things in this podcast that you are not going to want to miss. My name's Travis Sims, and I am the founder and CEO of AGC Accelerated Global Connections. And this is the AGC Experience.
Have you wondered if Facebook and Instagram ads could work for your business? Do you know that these ads are the most cost-effective advertising on and off the internet today? That is, if you know what you are doing. Isn't it time to take advantage of Facebook and Instagram ads to get more leads and sales for your business? Janet E. Johnson has helped bring in millions of dollars using online marketing strategies. She offers both management and training solutions. Set up a discovery call with her to see if your business is a fit. JanetEJohnson.com.
All right. Welcome, everyone. I'm super excited to have our guest today, Ari Reynolds, in the house. And it is such a rare treat because I rarely get to do in-person interviews now. And so it's just so fun to have you in the studio live and in person. And for those of you that are watching and listening, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in to the AGC Experience podcast and telling others, spreading the news and sharing this podcast with other people. I greatly appreciate that. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you're listening for the very first time to the Ari Reynolds episode. So Ari, please tell us a little bit about you, your background. We always like to learn the why behind the business. So tell us about you.
So I am almost 30 years old. Woo!
Almost 30. Oh my gosh, just a baby.
Coming up on my 30th birthday this summer. Pretty sure I'll be over here quite a bit with that.
Yeah. Now wait, I usually don't interrupt, but she's given me some stuff because I just turned 45 just a couple days ago, and here you are. So, I'm turning 30.
So I mean, for being 30 years old, I'd say that I've come from a lot. I've built a lot for myself, and I see a great future coming. So I'm excited to kind of dig in. I'm a photographer, so I've been doing that for quite some time. I work with Complete Weddings and Events for head of sales, and I'm just excited to be here.
So you have a really big background in photography. I've known you, gosh, it's at least maybe 3 years. I'm not really sure.
It's a little more than that.
Was it maybe, let's say four. Let's say four. And you're someone that upon meeting you, and for those of you that have never met Ari, upon meeting you, you're a hugger. You love to hug people. You always have a smile. You just have a fun way about you. I don't think you've ever met a stranger, and you just have this infectious way about you that just draws people in, and it's something that is not everyone has, and why I wanted to point that out. But I think I met you the first time at a huge event, and maybe you were doing a photo booth and doing some. You were carrying a big camera, and we connected there instantly, and I got to see some of your work, and it's been amazing. And I've just watched you blossom and grow over the last 4 years.
Yeah, so I think when you met me, I was actually running my own business, Forever Focused Photos. I still do that on the side for babies and engagements and things like that. And so I had my own photo booth business, and I met Travis through the BNI chapters, and that was a great experience. And so I was really excited to hear about AGC when you brought this in and to meet more people, because as you said, I'm a people person.
You are.
So you take me and put me in a room full of people, and I can just shine and find connections. And I mean, I'm a photographer. That's what I do. I show up at a wedding and I make things happen. And that's kind of where all that comes from.
Well, so what made you decide that you wanted to be a photographer? I mean, because you could be anything in life, and there was something somewhere, some point, something that said, hey, I love doing this. You know, how did that start about?
I stumbled upon photography. Actually, it was, I bought a camera. My daughter was not even 1 year old yet. And I realized I'm really good at taking pictures and that this could turn into something. And I realized that I'm really hardworking and I'm going to build a business and I'm going to do this. And as I started doing photos, I would get a recall a year later. So I did somebody's maternity photos. They wanted me for newborn photos. And I'd walk in and my photos would be on the wall. And if that is not a drive to bring passion into what you do, I'm creating memories. My dad, who I recently just lost, he used to always tell me that a wedding isn't just about the bride and groom. It impacts thousands of people. For every wedding I do, it's the bride and groom, it's the guests, it's for people who get to see those photos later, it's for their kids. And so he also used to tell me every day, go out and make a new friend. So in doing sales, I'm not just doing sales, I'm making a new friend. And so every single one of my clients I hold dear to my heart. And if I do an engagement session with them, I show up at their wedding, we're like best friends. Like they're not just clients anymore. This is so much more than that. Which is part of how I got so connected with
Yes. Well, photography, I think, is really a relational style business. I mean, you get to know your people, and they have to feel comfortable with you. You have to feel comfortable with them. And so there's a few things in what you just shared I want to pull out. So first of all, I want to know what you learned photography on. Photography has changed a lot over the years. And it seems like every year there's new technology and new things coming about. So where did you start? I mean, did you start on film? Where did you start?
I did not start on film.
Okay.
I just bought a DSLR. I mean, $1,000. And then, I tried actually to work for Complete Weddings and Events years ago. And they were like, you don't really have the equipment for it. Nice try. Come back later. And I was really persistent. I was like, I want to freelance for you guys. I want to get into the wedding and events industry. I want to know more. I want you to teach me. I want you to show me. I want you to mold me. And I mentioned I'm a driven person. So after a long time of knocking on their door, they finally was like, all right, here's the lenses you need. And so I went and invested. And I mean, now it's amazing. I love, I'm a Canon shooter. Sorry for anybody who's a Nikon, but I love my gear now. That compared to what I started with, let's just say it's an upgrade.
Well, I it's an industry that I think a lot of people start off as hobbyists. I have a neighbor that loves to shoot just nature and scenery. She's not a professional photographer, has no interest, I don't think, in becoming one, but she loves just taking nature photos. And now, I mean, these little guys, these phones, everyone's carrying this camera that is 10 times better than it was back when I was young, and they were shooting on Polaroid pictures. And you wave those things around, and you thought it helped. I just
bought one.
You did?
I did just buy one of the.
It's like retro.
I did. I just bought a Polaroid.
Oh my gosh.
My kids love it. They like to have the Polaroid sticking on the fridge. Like, there's nothing better.
The world of photography, it changed so much when you didn't have to take pictures and then have them on a roll of film and wait. Like, take them. Well, first of all, no one did, right? You had the shoebox full of undeveloped pictures, and then on occasion you would take this roll of film in and you would wait days for it to come back. And now it's almost that instant gratification, because you take a picture and you can look at it and you can show others. With that, I want to know, how do you set yourself as a professional? Because I've seen your photography. I know you do an amazing job, and you talk about the ones that people want to put on the walls. Not everybody puts the pictures off their phone on their walls. So what sets you apart as a professional versus that amateur just taking pictures on their phone?
I mean, it really comes from your vision and your eye and your creativity, as to like what photo you end up taking and why. So for me, I would say capturing a lot more of the candid, those intimate moments that a person has waited their entire life for. Because when you're a little girl and you're growing up, you picture that white picket fence in front of your house. So people doing porch photos right now, like that makes sense because you love your house and you love your family, and here's where you were during this, and it's a moment in time. And so when you get pregnant and he's rubbing your belly or kissing your belly, like those photos bring out an emotion in you, and it's an emotional trigger. And so that's really where you can play on that, because I know in my life the things that I've looked forward to and the things that I want and that I need. And so everybody, we're human, we all have feelings and emotion, and if you can pull out the emotion of a situation, those are usually the money makers. As well, parents, every wedding I make sure that your parents are very capitalized, because who knows, that may be one of the last nice photos you get with them. Looking at it when I'm selling weddings, I tell brides all the time, like, take those intimate moments with your parents and cherish them, and let's make sure we get that on camera. Some of them are trying to push through photos, like, let's just do one and done, like one with just both of them together, and I don't need each one individually. And I'm like, no, let's slow it down. Really, you want this. I promise you want this. Let me give this to you. So
that's such a treat. My parents divorced about 15 years ago, and I obviously was an adult during this time. But when my grandmother passed, once we were in the home and sorting through things, like, I got all the photos in the photo album of my parents together, because it's so rare to photograph to see my parents together, because it just doesn't happen.
Right.
But I have those photos from way back when they were together, and it's a treasured thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, I actually just reached out to a lot of people from my childhood to be like, hey, does anybody have photos of us? My parents just were not the greatest parents of all times. My mom was absent, and my dad wasn't there until high school. So a lot of my childhood is just missing. So I've been trying to piece together some of those really important pieces of my life that I just don't have. So cherish those.
Yes.
You can probably build your timeline based off of those photos. So.
For sure. Yeah. And there's a couple things I want to hit on there too. And this already is evolving into a great podcast. I knew you would be an awesome guest. I want to know how you help people relax in front of the camera. I mean, because when you put a camera on someone, all of a sudden everybody just sits up and they get real kind of stuffy, and how do you get them relaxed where they really can enjoy themselves and have a genuine smile and not that pursed fake smile that everybody tries to put on?
It takes a while. Usually when I'm talking to a bride about an engagement session, I'm like, you should probably do an engagement session. You don't want your trial run with your photographer to be on your wedding day. Use that time to get to know them, to get those photos, to see how you guys interact together on camera. An engagement session or like a pre-shoot to anything is really important, because that first hour is just getting to know them, getting to know their personalities. Do you kiss her on her forehead? Do you smile like this? Do you put your chin down? I was on the phone last night with a groom. Oh my gosh. So he goes, yeah, I definitely think an engagement session is needed. She gets a fat face. And she was sitting next to him. And I know exactly what he's talking about. Most girls pull back and tuck in their chin, and they get this fat neck. But I was like, did you just say that to your fiance, that she gets a fat face? And I think he said it about 6 times. And she was laughing. It was all in good humor. But it does happen where you get your engagement session back and you're like, I like these ones, I don't like these ones.
Yeah.
And then you get that one shot that I'm like, do you remember the shot by the willow tree that you really liked? And they're like, yes, that was a natural pose. That was comfortable. Let's do that.
Yeah.
So I learn very adaptively. I get guys that are like, I hate photos. I absolutely hate photos. This is going to be terrible. And at the end of the shoot, they're like, all right, well, maybe, like, I don't hate photos. So.
Yeah. That we live in such a world, again, going back to the cell phone, to where you can take a selfie at an angle where it's way up high and you're looking up and you protect the double chins, and then you run it through all these filters before you ever share it. Do you feel any like extra where you're, I guess, do you have to compare to that? Are people putting additional pressure like, oh, you've really got to make me look good, make sure you Photoshop this, or,
We do.
Yeah.
My favorite is when they get a Pinterest inspiration board and they're like, here it is. And I'm like, that's like in Asia and there's like air balloons in the background. And, and I don't think that's very realistic. I'll see what I can do.
Bring it in a little bit. Go.
Yeah. And so you do have to really bring them back. Like, okay, well, let's break this photo down. Like, what do you like about this photo? So it's, inspiration boards are great. We love Pinterest. But somebody will send me 15 photos and they're all different backgrounds. They're all different colors. They're all different concepts. Some of them are just pose. Some of them are emotional. And it's like, whoa, what are we going for? We have to have a vision. I can't recreate each one of those photos. It'd take us 15 days to set up each individual shoot. So really kind of breaking that down with them a little bit.
Yeah. Do you think that your, let's say, lack of photos as a child and having, I think you said an absentee mother, okay, and a father that you saw or that came into your life in the high school, does that inspire you to capture those family moments? Because you talked about the parents at the wedding. Is that, I'm trying to get to the why on some of your relationship, because you could have had a path in life where you were like walled in and wouldn't let anybody in. And instead, you're exact opposite. You're so open and really, really just want to help people. So I'm just kind of curious if that has any avenue to it.
Totally. Jumping into that a little bit. It started really young. My parents divorced right away, and my mom found other avenues to cope. And there was a lot of sexual abuse stuff early on, and so molding me into the person that I am now was totally just a down slope. We're talking just landslide of, I wasn't very popular in school. I didn't have a lot of friends. We moved around a lot. We were poor. I lived in the slums. So it was really a lot of missing some of those moments in life. And honestly, I never thought I'd live past the age of 18. My mental health started to downslide probably at the age of about 10. I really started experiencing a lot of deep depression thoughts and how to get through this. And so when I moved to Minnesota, I moved from a very abusive parent and the worst of the worst. I moved out of my mom's house when I was like 11, and I was on my own, and I was just really not making the best decisions in life. So when I moved here for high school, it was like culture shock. I moved to Wayzata, which is one of the richest suburbs. And I did not fit in, but I made the choice then to better myself, to learn from what I had seen, and to never go back. I had a lot of support. My teachers from out in Colorado really supported me with like never going back there, and how do we learn from this, and how do we develop from this and grow. And when I think about my path since then, I've been in and out of horrible relationships. I've been in and out of hospitals with mental health stuff, and I just kind of reached a point that I started my photography business, and my kids had just begun to become toddlers, and I was like, I can do this. And it was empowering, and it did take a lot. I would say that the mental health definitely was my biggest hurdle that I've overcome in life. But I guess my inspirational story on that for anybody who struggles with mental health is, when postpartum hit on top of all of the other stuff, talking about, being hospitalized 3-4 times a month just to keep myself safe, and being immobilized and unable to take care of my kids. I had actually put my kids into the foster system. just to get back on track, to really level myself out and get on good medication and learn how to live life without medication, because that's a whole nother hurdle. And I got my kids back and everything was great. My photography business started picking up, and I actually ended up fostering kids about a year later. And my biggest reason for that was their parents were veering towards the same path that I grew up in, and my heart just broke into pieces for these kids. And so I think really when you dig into your past and you start to pull out those, picture perfect moments of what's on their wall or what you envision, some people never even had the chance. And honestly, if I didn't move to Minnesota, I would still be right where all my friends are in Colorado, in the same house, doing drugs, not really going anywhere in life, paycheck to paycheck. And so my heart breaks for people in those situations. So mental health is definitely a big pull. And having photos, like it brings so much joy to my life. To be at a wedding, to do, birthing shoots, like those are moments that people, like, you can't even put into words. Like, it just doesn't come out what it gives to me. And so it definitely does go back all the way back to like trickling in with the support that I have in my life with groups like AGC or Twin City Wedding Event Professionals, or even Complete Weddings and Events. I don't have a lot of family, but I do have family in everyone I hang out with. So.
Oh, wow. What a great answer. Oh my gosh. You shared so much, and you thank you for being vulnerable. Not everybody's brave enough to share those stories. And I think it can help and impact a lot of people. You're not defined by your circumstances. And everyone, I don't care who you are. This is why I'll never run for office, is because there's always some skeleton in everyone's closet. Right. And everyone's too ashamed to share it. But if we were vulnerable enough to share it, then we could help so many other people. And, you shared some things. I think a lot of us, including myself, that we all are battling, and we think we're in this alone, and there are other people just like us. And so, mental health is a big one. It's we support mental health inside AGC. It's one of the things that we, American Foundation for Suicide, it's another prevention. It's another one of our ways that we contribute and give back. And that comes from, a lot of business owners, a lot of salespeople, and a lot of entrepreneurs have some type of mental health thing in them. And I don't know why that is, because I'm not a professional,
Right.
but it is. And I someone shared this with me recently, and that is that one of the highest suicide rates is from business owners. And,
I believe it.
Yeah, and stress level. Perfectionist. Yeah.
We work really hard, and we want so much. So like right now, we are instant gratification people, and we are going to work really hard until it happens. Sales, you're chasing a sales number, and even when you hit that number is not good enough.
And you're not happy with it.
And it really comes down to our personal, your past. I did a lot of trauma work veered around what I had been through. And when you start to dig into trauma work, it's actually an interesting concept for anybody who hasn't really dug into their mental health. You start to realize that, like, when you were a kid, your parents may have said something along the lines of, boys don't cry. And so you were trained your entire life that you're not supposed to cry. And so on your wedding day, are you going to cry in front of those 200 people that are staring at you?
I know.
Like, those little things that are said to you, you create this barrier around it. And it may not even be that. It could have been what your nickname was in middle school. And you're just constantly trying to overcome that barrier, and you don't even know that barrier's there. And so mental health, definitely in small businesses, that makes sense to me. The fear of rejection, the fear of missing out. If you're not feeling like you're good enough, or you're not providing enough. Times like what's going on right now, like, are you going to make it? Are you going to be okay? Do you want to do this? I'm definitely that kind of person that if anybody's struggling with mental health, reach out to me. If you need to go for a walk, if we need to get in the car and go for a ride, those immobilizing nights that it's too much. Like, I get them probably once every 6 months where I pick up the phone. I have my people. If I'm not feeling safe, it's still there. I mean, I'm successful and I'm doing great and I have 2 kids and I have everything I could ever ask for, but that doesn't change the fact that mental health is real.
Yeah.
And it's not just going to go away. And it's something that I'll struggle with for the rest of my life. And if you're struggling with mental health, it's gonna be there. It's how we overcome it.
Yeah. And we're all human, and it's okay to ask for help. Absolutely okay to ask for help. And, overcoming life's obstacles is what leads us to our next victories. And you've had a tremendous amount of victories, and because of, I think, some of your previous things you've overcome. Like, I've watched you during the last 2 months during COVID-19, and there are tons of people that have said the sky is falling and the world is ending and all these things, and Ari's just like, we got this, and it's because there are some of us that's like that. Okay, I lived through 9/11. I lived through the recession. I overcame drugs and alcohol. I overcame, being having no parents. I overcame foster care. I overcame, all these things. And you look at all the things that you've overcome in life. I can do this too.
Yeah, it really showed when COVID hit, and the cancellations started rolling in the weddings and events industry. We were going to sink or we were going to swim. And I was like, it's going to be fine. Just keep smiling. Everything's going to work out. And I definitely was a big pull in this. I actually hosted a couple different webinars for brides, just trying to give them some guidance to help them breathe, to be the light at the end of the tunnel. It was all about perspective for me. If you just stay positive, it's going to feel positive. And if you start letting it get to you, I'm not superhuman, so don't get me wrong. It definitely was there, but I did train for this. My entire life was COVID.
Yes.
It was coming. And I've actually had a lot of people say that same thing to me with wow, if I hadn't been set up the way that I was, with just feeling like the world is ending, constantly, I may not have been as okay during COVID, but I'm very appreciative for my past and the things that I have overcome, because it did allow me to check in on my friends that they live by themselves in a 1-bedroom apartment and they're drowning, they're not working, so I'm like, hey, do we need to go for a walk? Really reaching out to some of those friends and building those relationships and knowing when things are hitting the fan, checking in on people. So I'm really grateful for what I've been through and how far I've come, and it's molded me into the person that I am. So I wouldn't change it for the world. I think so.
Right. I know. I do the same thing. I look back on life and I'm like, because I don't know how many of you or the audience know that, I grew up in a really, really small country town, and in a community where most people have never been on an airplane. Most people don't graduate high school. Most people get married, have kids, move on mom and dad's property or grandma and grandpa's property, and it's not usually in that order. And I was destined for that. I started out on that path, and so here I am getting married at 17, baby on the way by my 18th birthday, and living right next to mom and dad in a little small trailer. Like mobile home, but it was at that time, gosh, it was there. They make campers bigger than this today.
Yeah.
And so it was a rough start in life, a tough spot. And, my parents, though, I will say this, my parents, you mentioned foster care, and my parents did foster care when I was growing up. And so there was always kids coming through our house at all times. And my parents ended up adopting 5 children.
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm the oldest of 8. I always say I'm the oldest of 8 because they're my siblings. It doesn't matter whether they were adopted or not adopted. They're my siblings. I love them. And but yes. So I wasn't in foster care myself, but I saw a lot of those kids come through, and I think for some reason that has made me the constant nurturer or the person that wants to help. Because my parents taught me that way. And then I also, I never judge anyone and based upon anything they're going through, because I know all the stuff I went through.
Oh yeah. it's so easy to judge. I mean, you're in the grocery store and you're like, oh, that person's in sweats, and God, how could you go out in public like that? And it's like, dude, when I have a rough day and I just need to go to the store for some milk and the kids are hungry and I need some hamburger, like, I don't look all that great either. So I'm not going to judge somebody, but it's really easy to be naive, and it's you don't know what you don't know. And so it's definitely a growing, you learn that as you go through things in life. So,
well, I think too, everything we've been talking about, and just me knowing you so well, I have watched you work in network rooms and networking events and business meetings and things, and you do that exceptionally well. And I think it has to do a lot with how you're so relational and relatable and all those things. But I'm just curious from you, like, what advice you might have for a young entrepreneur. It doesn't even matter the industry. Maybe it's photography, maybe it's not, but what advice would you give them starting out and trying to break into networking or trying to get to build relationships with business people?
I mean, coming from somebody that I still to this day have severe anxiety, that stops me constantly. Like, I'll be getting ready and out of nowhere, I'm like, just no. Like, I just don't want to go. I just don't feel comfortable. I don't know anybody that's going to be there. And so, finding a friend when you walk in the door, even, if it's just the person that's greeting you, like, those are open arms. You just have to see it. And so, finding a networking buddy, even, like, I have people in the weddings and events industry that will go to things together, because nobody wants to go to a black tie event by yourself. And so those little simple things, to kind of break those barriers, figure out what your barriers are that's stopping you. And, sometimes it's starting those conversations. You probably don't know this, but I hide behind my camera a lot.
Oh, you got the prop. Yes.
So I'm really easy to be like in the middle of a conversation and engage. I'm going to say this and everybody's going to know now. But I'll be engaging and I'll see something out of the corner of my eye that, like, I want to go take a picture of, and I'll like wrap up this conversation because I'm like,
that's your escape.
I'm going to go. Like, if I just start to feel that claustrophobic moment, and it's nothing to do with the person. It's that it's real. Like, it happens, and that networking doesn't come naturally to everyone.
Right.
It took a long time for me to get comfortable to stand up in a room full of 60 people and give my commercial, or to sit down in a group with 10 people and share my story. So that fear, use it as an encouragement, work around it. How do you work harder, not smarter, or work smarter, not harder?
Right.
Because, you could sit there and be afraid every single day and cancel on people and not go out networking and not go to this. But going to places like AGC, where, there are veterans that are there to scoop you up and take you in and network with you and introduce you to people. I love the color coding, because it does show, like, it's not that you're a newbie and like, oh, they're a newbie. It's, oh, hey, they're new. Let's get them comfortable. Let's introduce them. Let's figure out what they do and figure out how to connect them. Those kind of things really make the difference. And so, really, I mean, if you're having those barriers, reach out to whoever invited you. Say, hey, can we go together? Can we get coffee beforehand and go? Like, I just, even if you're meeting for a cocktail hour beforehand.
Yes. That's fantastic advice. I call that the "Have you met Ted" method. Mm-hmm. And so, did you ever watch the show How I Met Your Mother? Have you ever seen it? You never seen it?
No.
She's like, no, that was 10 years ago. So for those of you that are older in this audience, How I Met Your Mother, it ran for, I don't know, like 10 or 12 seasons, a long time. There was two, there's the main character, his name's Ted, and he is the architect in the group. And so he's a someone who just doesn't like crowds. He's introverted. Mm-hmm. He's just introverted. And the story is about how he met the kid's mother. And so he's telling the kids this story. Well, it's a long story because it took 10 seasons, right? Okay. And so, But he runs in a group of friends, and they always go to this one bar that's close to the house, and they have food there and whatever. And his friend Barney is the extrovert, and Barney is the ladies' man of this group. And so Barney literally leads Ted around to meet the girls and says, "Have you met Ted? Have you met Ted? Have you met Ted?" And so Barney becomes Ted's wingman. And so I think, in networking, it's always good to have that networking buddy, that friend, to do it together. I think it's a really good method. Thanks for suggesting it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely having that wing networker.
Yes,
Wing
yeah.
networker.
You said earlier, she's like, before we started the podcast, she said, sometimes I make up words. But I think you just made up the word, wing networker. You better coin that.
My favorite was, I was still in a photo booth with somebody, and I'm on the phone with them, and I'm like, "Hey, so photo booth is great. The curtain opens behind the couple, so you can always photo bloop them." So it's no longer photo bombing; it's photo blooping.
There you go.
And they actually made a sign at their wedding that said photo blooping. And I was like,
that's awesome.
I did that. Yeah. I didn't do anything else in life. I made up a word.
That's fantastic. Well, I want to say thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast today, the AGC Experience. If you're listening to this and you're not watching it on the video on YouTube or elsewhere, you can probably hear our smiles, because this just has been so much fun. And so if people want to find you later, find your company, find you, how do we connect with you?
Yeah, so nationally you can find Complete at completewedo.com. We offer videography, photography, photo booth, DJ, uplighting, and day of coordination. So kind of all your wants and needs for a wedding package all in one place. You have a whole team you can pick from. If you wanted to find us locally here in Minneapolis, we are Complete Weddings and Events Twin Cities. So our link is on the screen now. So completewedo.com/Minneapolis. We offer everything that I just mentioned. You can actually view like 30 photographer profiles at one time on our page. You can look through DJ profiles. If you inquiry on that website, it links straight to my cell phone. So if you want to get a hold of Ari, you can actually reach out to us straight from that link, and I will gladly connect with anybody. So wedding related or not, I'm definitely into networking. And if you're struggling with mental health, or you just need a buddy or a wing networker or whatever it may be, I'm your person.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Ari, so much for being a guest today. It's just been fantastic to have you. If you are watching or listening at home, I want to say thank you for tuning in today. I want to say thank you for staying with us all the way through this podcast. And again, please share this with others. Tell others about it. Hit the subscribe button. And if you're interested in sponsoring the AGC Experience, please reach out to us. We have great sponsors. We have awesome listeners and watchers from all over the country and all over the world. And we'd love to get your brand in front of them. So thank you so much again for watching and listening.